Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterosn and Michael Remis.
Hey now, welcome to an amazing Tuesday. Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, Hustler away, myself, Michael Remis, in the host chair. So pumped to be joined here today. Connor Hrabchak coming right up. Great long weekend. Not sure what everyone got up to. We had a big Bomber win Friday. We're going to be talking about that today. The Bombers back practicing. Jets news. Very quiet this week. We finally had the resolution to the Dylan Samberg contract standoff. We'll still be touching on that. Mike McIntyre will join me. Bombers practicing. Zach Collaros taking reps. Dylan Mitchell with the ones. And the guy who was there yesterday grilling the coaches on some of the decisions from Friday's win. Derek Taylor. He will join me later to discuss that. And the Winnipeg Seabears, their season is winding down, and CEBL Championship weekend, it is just around the corner. Big celebration taking place downtown here in the city. CEBL broadcaster, play-by-player for the Seabears, Joey Slattery, will join me, touch on the Seabears up and down season. But hey, they got a berth. The championship weekend, they will be in there. So excited to talk to Joey about that. Hope everyone had a good weekend. So many sporting activities. As we said, the Bombers Friday, CFL Saturday, we were watching the Blue Jays, SummerSlam, and was the Manitoba Derby wrapping it up last night. So I'm happy to be here. Before I bring in Connor, I do have to give a shout out to all of the sponsors. Hopefully I don't forget any of them. Rolly's Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake, St. Vital Dental, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Princess Auto, Little Brown Jug, who I have? Winnipeg Gold Eyes, Breezy Bend, Assiniboia Downs, Fans First. We'll get to fan feedback from Fans First. There's so many of these sponsors. Without them, wouldn't be here doing the show right now. I don't know if I said Boston Pizza, Royal Sports. I lost my page where I had them written down. It got deleted here. Anyways. Oh, I do. It's right off to the side. Anyways. Canadian Club. I don't think I said. That was on ANF Apparel. There's so many. Cool Bet, of course. We'll go over the lines at the end of the show. All right, let's bring him in. Connor, the man, I had the weekend off, but Connor was busy. He had the WST Sunday Live on Sunday with an hour of Samberg talk, I'm sure. And the Bombers report him and Schnitzy needed that one there after the Bomber win. Conflicting feelings after that Bomber win. Let's talk to him. Connor Hrabchak. Connor, how was your long weekend? Great to be joined by you here on a wonderful Monday.
Yeah, great long weekend, Remo. Sunday Live was awesome. Thank you to everyone who stopped by and listened to me ramble about Dylan Samberg for about an hour. And then WST Bombers Report, we were finally talking about a win. That was our first win that we had covered. This was our fourth episode, and obviously the Bombers had a 3-game losing streak there. So thanks to everyone who checked out both pieces of content there. And I'm excited for today's lineup of guests, especially so Derek Taylor, because a lot of the questions that Schnitzy and I had, he was asking to Mike O'Shea and Jason Hogan, and I'm excited to see what his thoughts were on the answers to his questions on some of the play calling.
Yeah, Derek's got a very analytical mind, and I'm excited to be able to talk with him later on in the show. But the Winnipeg Blue Bombers snapping their 3-game losing streak with a 40-31 win. It wasn't the prettiest win, but for a team that had lost 3 in a row and really got dominated in all of those games, you'll take them how you can get it. But I mean, you have a game where your quarterback throws 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and you somehow put up 40 points up the board. Pretty impressive, and no one was more impressive. Well, I don't know. It was Trey Vaval with the 2 return touchdowns, 1 kick return, 1 punt return. but the second Blue Bomber in history to do that behind Janarian Grant. And the kicking game or the return game was something we talked so much about last year, looking for the guy to replace Grant. Have they found it in Trey Vaval, or will Peyton Logan take over a spot when he comes back? And it's funny, the defense, so conflicted on how to feel about the defense, Connor. You, on one hand, you have interceptions, you have a strip sack for a touchdown, you have Willie J knocking down balls in key moments. However, you do have some deep touchdowns given up to Nick Arbuckle, and they did give up the 31 points there. So kind of conflicted on that defensive performance. Some great plays, but they had some miscues giving up the deep ball like they have. And the offense only scored 7 points. Going to be tough to win games when you're only scoring 7. Some questionable decision making down the end, which we'll be talking about on this show. But it was a wild one. The Bombers got the lead. They were able to hang on and come out with the win. You were there at Princess Auto Stadium. How did you feel about that game from the Blue Bombers?
Just a wild roller coaster being at Princess Auto Stadium for that one, Remis. Starting with Trey Vaval, 2 incredible, 1 kick return and 1 punt return, 2 return touchdowns that really changed the outlook of the game entirely. And Schnitzy and I talked about it on the WST Bombers report. He was a guy that we were talking about, maybe Peyton Logan coming in and replacing him, or Cody Case before he got injured. Could he be a guy that is maybe returning kicks? Because Trey Vaval was getting there with breaking these runs, and then he had a few fumbles, put the ball on the ground a few times. So there was question marks starting to linger there when it came to Trey Vaval and his effectiveness in the return game. And he put all those questions to bed, at least on Friday night, 2 return touchdowns. And it was vintage Willie Jefferson as well. I remember last week we got questions in our question portion on the Bomber Report about Willie Jefferson. How's he playing so far? He hasn't taken a game over yet. Well, he absolutely took over that game. 4 pass knockdowns and a forced fumble that ended up in a defensive touchdown. 3 non-offensive touchdowns for the Bombers, 2 returns and a defensive touchdown. And then, like you said, Strevler punched one in offensively. But the biggest thing, it was a very ugly win. I see some people in chat saying that, and I could not agree more. A win is a win. They're 4-3, as ugly as it might be. But the biggest thing coming out of that game for me was the 1st and 10 from the 14-yard line, coming out of the 3-minute warning, and Chris Strevler takes a deep shot to Jareth Stearns that's picked off. And if it's not for Kyrie Wilson and Willie Jefferson knocking down back-to-back passes, the Toronto Argonauts had a chance to go down and win that game. The Bombers were up 6 at the time. A field goal would have made it 9. Out of the 3-minute warning, 1st down. Even if you run it twice, you at least burn, a minute of clock and then make it a 2-score game. The Bombers decided to take a deep shot. And Derek Taylor was asking the questions. The Bombers stood by it, said they like to call. Both O'Shea and Hogan did. And we'll get into some of those clips later on. But a lot to take away from that game. It was very entertaining, classic CFL football, so much happening in just one game. But Trey Vaval and Willie Jefferson were the stars for me.
Yeah, 100%. And I was going to say, I don't know if you had a turning point of this game. If TSN, I don't think they do the TSN turning point, but it's a phrase that's entered the sports lexicon. I was going to say it was in the first quarter. Or was it? Yeah, the first quarter, the Vaval kick return. Chris Strevler throws a pick 6 to Cam Judge.
Yes.
And you think, oh no, here we go again. And I thought that really changed the game, but you want to say it's, those key pass knockdowns by Willie Jefferson at the end. But I thought the first Vaval kickoff return was absolutely huge for the Bombers and staying in the game and, not so down after, throwing a pick 6 from your backup quarterback.
Yeah, and offensive turnovers have been, a massive story so far this season, Remis. I think that's now 21 turnovers in the last 4 games, including the 3 from this win against Toronto. So, you throw an early pick six to go down 7-0. The air gets taken out of that sold out crowd at Princess Auto Stadium. You're thinking, here we go again. And then Trey Faval breaks one 93-yard kick return touchdown. I mean, perfect response at a perfect time, got the crowd back on their feet. And then later on, I mean, late in the second quarter too, is when they got the punt return touchdown and the defensive touchdown. They got both of those going into halftime. That really gave them a big cushion that, as we saw, was much needed in the fourth quarter. They were up 31-10 going into halftime, ended up winning they were up 37-31 when they threw the pick. And then Toronto had a chance to go down and score a touchdown and win that game. So all of those points mattered, especially late in the second quarter, even when, you were looking at it potentially being a blowout. It did not end up that way. But that late second quarter surge where the Bombers got 14 points from the defensive touchdown and the Faval punt return, I think would be the turning point for me, because those points proved costly later on in the game.
Yeah, and let's hear from the quarterback, the starting QB from Friday's win. Here's what Chris Streveler had to say after the game on Friday.
Back and forth, defense stepped up for us huge there in the stretch. Special teams, cribbing 2 kicks is a massive game changer. So, back and forth all night. We got to get better. I got to get better. But it's ultimately easier to learn from a win than it is from a loss.
On that point, I mean, you get the victory. It's a close one. What kind of change? It seemed like you had the rhythm in that first half, and obviously they need to play some catch up here. But how do you explain kind of the second half versus that first?
Well, we just got to stay on the field and get in the end zone offensively. We just didn't score enough touchdowns, and when you throw 3 picks, that's just never good enough. So I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to be better, and we're going to be better as a team. But like I said, it's ultimately just nice to get the win and learn from that.
As Chris Streveler says, nice to win and nice to get the win and learn from that. Easier to learn from a win than a loss. And a lot of questions asked about the interception, his third one of the game, thrown in the fourth quarter. Here's what Streveler had to say about that play and taking a sack later on in the fourth quarter on 2nd and 4.
Yeah, try to close it out. I mean, I appreciate the coaches trusting me there. I got to be better with the football. That's on me. Thanks,
You
guys.
had that RPO or 2nd and 4 late in the game. You took that sack. Was that an RPO or a called pass?
Called pass.
Called pass there from Streveler. And I think when we went to this a couple weeks ago, I was really getting deja vu on Friday, Connor. You're thinking of the Calgary. They drive the ball all the way down to the field. Streveler rolls out and throws an interception in the end zone. And on Friday, again, they're driving. They need to kick a field goal to go up 2 scores. And you're taking a deep shot, for the receiver who's Stearns, very undersized compared to the corner covering him. Poorly placed ball, easily picked off. And then again, we didn't touch on this play, the 2nd and 4, around midfield. Yeah. You think, okay, well, they threw before, they only need 4 yards. Just run. You can run out the clock, and they drop back to pass, and he gets sacked. A lot of fans questioning some of the decision-making here from the Bombers and the quarterback.
Yeah, and I think I honestly forgot about that 2nd and 4. So much happened late in that game that, they got the ball back again and did the same thing. They threw a screen pass on first down to Jareth Stearns, and then 2nd and 4, like Chris Streveler just said, called pass, hangs onto the ball too long, sack, and then Toronto got the ball again, and the defense had to make another stop. So the defense had to make 2 stops in the final 3 minutes when the first play, the 1st and 10 from the 14, you run that ball twice, kill, maybe a minute or so, kick the field goal. Surge has been money. They were very close. They were inside the red zone. And that would have been a 9-point game, 2-score game. And I don't think it would have been nearly as stressful. And I think the biggest thing, like, obviously in the moment, me and everyone else at Princess Auto Stadium is thinking, what is going on here? Why are they calling so many passes with under 3 minutes left? The biggest concern for me, Remis, is we've seen this pattern now. You brought up the Calgary thing. Schnitzy and I talked about that on our WSD Bombers report as well. Like, that one was 1st and 10 from the 7, great drive. And then Streveler throws a pick in a situation they probably should have ran. Streveler threw a pick in this game in a situation they probably should have ran. And then they called pass on 2nd and 4. The biggest concern for me is now we've gone a few days And it seems as though O'Shea and Hogan, when asked about it after practice, seem to be okay with these decisions. And they're supposed to be, learning as the season goes on. Jason Hogan, first-time play caller. I would have liked to have heard him, say, yeah, that one's on me. I should have ran the ball there. The biggest concerning thing for me is that they're not really saying that. And this is something that's going to bite the Bombers. I'm shocked it hasn't already. I mean, it did in that Calgary game, and they, more or less got lucky that they had Willie Jefferson on their team on this game.
Yeah, here's Mike O'Shea after the game. He said the same thing after practice yesterday, just much shorter. I think he said I answered that on Friday. But here he is on Friday, just talking about the interception, saying that, hey, we're trying to put the game away. I think you could put him away with a field goal, playing it safe and going up 2 scores. But this is what Mike O'Shea had to say about the decision to throw there late in the fourth quarter.
You see how stacked the box is. I mean, there's throws on the board there. It's at some point you have to do that too, right? But I'm okay with that. It's just they're going to load the box. You do have to make them pay at some point, right? So.
There's Mike O'Shea, says they're going to load the box. You have to make them pay. And how about the first-year OC, Derek Taylor? Asked Jason Hogan a couple questions yesterday about some of the play calling that we saw on Friday.
I think we all kind of are curious, the interception of the 3-minute warning. The play call, what goes into that decision? What?
Based on our film work, our prep, we felt comfortable with it. It's 1st and 10, but we felt comfortable, understand we'd probably get man coverage. We got to look for it. At that point in time, they also were loading the box for a little bit, so at times you got to make it pay. If they want to pay man coverage and load up the box, try and take the run away, you got to take some shots.
What's the benefit of the touchdown in that situation when you're already up 6?
Putting the game away. Putting the game away, which is the kill shot really is all it was. So going up by 3, just putting the game away, making it hard on the opponent. A little more momentum, maybe lifting the bench a little bit more. Confidence booster, all that good stuff.
Yeah. You don't feel like the same thing applies to being up 9? Sergio's going to hit a 21-yard field goal.
Oh, he'll hit it from 40 and 50, no doubt about it. But I think defense tries to go 0-1-3. We try and go 6-3. Right, so that's the mindset behind being in the red zone. Is trying to take shots when we need to and when they're there. And we felt at that time was the right time. We got the man coverage. Ball was not placed in the right area, and we paid for it, unfortunately.
You liked it better than? I mean, you must have liked it better than run, kick a field goal with. I presume they still had timeout, so kick a field goal with 2:25 or whatever it would have been.
Correct. That's why I called it.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's Derek Taylor asking Jason Hogan, and that's the sound, Connor, of the bus being rolled over Chris Streveler. Hogan calling for not executing the play. He's right, they had one-on-one coverage. The box was stacked, but tough when you have McFadden much larger against the smaller Stearns on the way the ball was thrown.
Both O'Shea and Hogan there both said, they're going to load the box. At some point, you have to make them pay. I don't think that's the situation where that is that some point to make them pay. I think that comes earlier in the game. I think you have 3.5 quarters to make them pay for loading the box. When you can kill the clock and go up 9 in the red zone with under 3 minutes remaining with your backup quarterback, I don't think like Chris Streveler is without criticism on this play. I do think it's a bad ball. Jason Hogan has a little bit of a point there that throw needs to be in a better spot. But also, I think Chris Streveler being the starting QB adds to all of our frustration here. If it's Zach Collaros, probably has a much higher chance of hitting, Jarrett Stearns in stride on a corner route, back corner of the end zone, and really having that be a kill shot. But with Chris Streveler in, I mean, who's to say the Bombers don't pick up another first down if they run the ball 2 straight times? They were running the ball pretty well. They have the MOP in the backfield, right? So it's not just run the ball twice and get stuff. They could get a first down with 2 runs as well. So I think that adds to the frustration that it is Chris Streveler. And I think, maybe you dial back the play calling in a situation like that. And both of them, as you just heard, were okay with it. And we're going for the kill shot, which they wanted to be up what would have been 13 instead of 9.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the Grey Cup where some thought the Bombers didn't run the ball enough. And again, you go back to the Calgary where you have Strevler in a quarterback. Again, like you said, he's not Zach Collaros back there. They were moving the ball pretty well with short passes to Stearns and to Dembski. Could you find a way to move the ball, without risking an interception in the end zone? But hey, they wound up winning the game. Wasn't the prettiest. We'll move on. And this week of practice, some news. Zach Collaros dressed and in practice, and Dylan Mitchell practicing with the first group of receivers, a guy we've spent a lot of time here talking about, and Stanley Bryant practicing as well. So certainly some excitement here as the Bombers 5-3, technically second in the West now because they've had the 2 byes. Or sorry, 4-3.
4-3.
Have a chance to pass Calgary for second this week with a win because they've played the less games because of the byes. So I think, hey, they're still in an okay spot here, 4-3 with some key contributors possibly coming back.
Yeah, that was one thing as well that Schnitzy and I talked about on the Bombers report. I tell people to go check it out. The offense was missing, if you want to loop Dalton Schoen in there, but they were missing Zach Collaros, Stanley Bryant these past couple of weeks as well. And I will say, Dylan Mitchell running with the ones. We've talked about him, I think, more than any, scratch in Bombers history through the first 9 weeks here. If he goes off on Saturday, what a story that would be. I mean, fans would be like, where's this guy been all year? But it definitely adds to my excitement a little bit that it looks as though Collaros, Bryant, and maybe even Dylan Mitchell will all be returning for this offense going into a big one in Calgary Saturday night, who may or may not have Vernon Adams. We got to watch for his status as well.
Yeah, Vernon Adams did not play last week. It was PJ Walker making his first CFL start, the former XFL QB. And we'll have to wait and see what happens here with them. The Bombers currently, 5-point underdogs on Coolbet to Calgary. But, that could change with the announcement that Collaros is starting. I don't know. I'm sure they have Strevler in as those projected lines. But Calgary did, have their way with the Bombers for 2 games so far this season. Can they rebound, with the key members back? So we'll talk with Derek Taylor shortly about that. Excited to hear. And one thing about Dylan Mitchell, it was interesting to hear last week where, they're shuffling around the defense saying, oh, Cramney, he can play, just about any position. Griffin, he can play any position. Dylan Mitchell, no. He can only play behind Wheatfall. He can't play anywhere else. And, after they went with the rookie Corcoran in the slot, it seemed to be going with Dylan Mitchell. We'll wait for the final depth chart to come out before the game, but an interesting development from practice this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I just said, I mean, what if Dylan Mitchell has 8 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown? I think a lot of fans will see that as a missed opportunity, but it's going to be something to monitor because what if he doesn't play the whole game? What if they manage his reps? He hasn't played for the Blue Bombers yet this season in the regular season. So it's going to be very, very interesting. And if Zach Collaros is playing and Bryant is back in at left tackle, which all signs point to that happening, Dylan Mitchell, if he's running with the ones the majority of the game as well on Saturday, I think it's going to be very interesting as they go up against arguably the top defense in the CFL in Calgary.
Yeah, it's CFL Week 10 starting up Thursday. We're halfway done the regular season. That's how the calendar's August, summer's. Yeah. Enjoy it this final month while you can. And then we'll be talking about hockey soon as well. So, Connor, great joining me here. We'll have some good hockey discussion towards the end with Hockey Canada announcing their rosters for some practice. Olympic orientation? I don't know what the official name of this camp is, but Josh Morrissey and Mark Shafley among the invitees. So there's Connor Hrabchak. Shout out to Connor for joining me. Derek Taylor, voice of the Blue Bombers on CJOB, joining me next. But first, here's Huss.
Do want to thank Rolly's Transfer for their great support of WST. Folks, if you have a move planned this summer or fall or winter, looking ahead, lean on our friends at Rolly's to take care of all of your prized possessions, as they've been doing family-owned and operated for over 60 years here in Manitoba. and the most trusted name in the moving game. Head on over to Rollies.com, and at the top right, you can click Request an Estimate. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to go. And our friends at Rollies will turn it around quick with a great quote and get you locked in with the white glove treatment and service that they've been famous for now into their 7th decade. For all of your moving needs, lean on Rollies, the most trusted name in Manitoba. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. Of course, hey, St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans, and now is a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment, convenient free parking in the back, and of course, a full array of dental services for patients from 6 months to 99 plus, everything from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. Our friends at St. Vital Dental Center are waiting for you. If it's been a minute since you've seen the dentist, pop by and see Dr. Terry. Book an appointment or find out more online, stvitaldental.ca. Make sure to keep your eyes out for Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. While supplies last with the limited Blue Bomber Edition label, pick that up and don't forget to grab a club pack as well. 4 CC and Gingers, 4 half and halves, and 4 citrus smashes. The best new drinks of the summer are brought to you by Canadian Club, and it's all waiting for you right in time for the weekend at your local Manitoba liquor marts. You're getting on the boat, you're going to be on an ATV, you're out camping, make sure you pop by Manitoba Battery before to make sure you are powered up. And of course, as Donnie always says, wake up Winnipeg, stop paying more at the big box stores. Manitoba Battery is your local option where you'll save up to $60 a battery over the big box stores, not to mention with the best service in town is they'll deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. So as you get ready for August long weekend, make sure you're powered up with Manitoba Battery, Logan Avenue, Dover Court Drive. Order online at manitobabattery.ca.
There's us. He'll be back tomorrow, but pleased to be joined right now, play-by-play voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on CJOB and host of the Coaches Show as well. That was yesterday. Derek Taylor. DT, what's going on at the stadium? Thanks so much for joining me right now.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Coaches Show's tonight. It's the holiday weekend, so tonight from 7 to 8 on CJOB. So everybody call in and ask questions of head coach Mike O'Shea so that I don't have to take the looks of asking those questions, right? So it's good. Yeah.
Hard time there, peppering him every day about the questions. Got to be a new strategy every time, right?
It really does test your skills as a question asker because there are no-go zones with Mike O'Shea, questions he just will not answer. And but some days he doesn't want to talk about this or that, and you go, okay, well, I kind of want you to talk about this or that. So you try to figure out how to salvage a clip that's usable to discuss said topic. So yeah, it's always interesting.
Perfect. Coach's Show tonight. It's funny because I tried to put the podcast on. I thought it was yesterday, and it was last week's Coach's Show.
Yeah, we go to Tuesdays on long weekends, so that more folks can be in there in the phone lines.
Yes, same with us. Tuesdays after a long weekend. So we're still talking about Friday's game here, even though it's seemingly a while ago. But what a wild win there. I mean, you get a win after losing 3 in a row, but very strange where your quarterback doesn't throw over a touchdown, 3 interceptions, 2 kick returns, 2 defensive touchdowns, and you can score 40 points. Pretty wild one, but hey, you'll take it, right?
Yeah, Strebler threw 4 incomplete. 4 passes were not completed for Strebler. 3 of them were interceptions, that's wacky enough on its own. But yeah, a kick return touchdown and a punt return touchdown for Trey Vauvel, who's had a lot of troubles holding on to the ball, right, throughout games this season. A defensive touchdown for the Bombers, a defensive touchdown for the Argos. So you can kind of, if you're a Bomber fan, you can kind of feel however you want about that. Yes, they got a win, 4-3. That's great. They beat Calgary. They're in second place. Or you could go, you know what? Toronto's offense outscored Winnipeg's offense 24-19. So what do I do with that as a fan? So it was the perfect game for folks like us because the Bombers won, and we have a million things to talk about from it.
Yeah, I know you were grilling Jason Hogan yesterday. We played the clips, but you mentioned Trey Vauvel. Is he going to be the guy has he cemented himself as the guy now with the 2 return touchdowns, or is Peyton Logan still nipping at the heels when he's ready to return?
Well, that gets to be a very interesting question, right? If Peyton Logan was healthy last week, you'd think, well, it was probably going to be Peyton Logan, just because Logan's done it at this level for quite some time, and he can give you stuff, back up in the running game and stuff like that. But Vavel puts out 2 touchdowns, and you go, oh, okay, well, that needs to be respected, right? So Peyton Logan is sort of back to practice this week, but he's not practicing fully this week, so they won't have to make that decision yet. Maybe next week on the short week when Ottawa is here. But that one's going to be interesting. It'll tell us kind of what do they think of Trey Vavel, and what do they think of the return plus that they could get from Peyton Logan. I at this moment, I don't know where they're going to go on that because of those 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, we have been looking for an electric returner since Janarian Grant left, and I think you're excited with the 2 touchdowns. You mentioned some fumbles. Did fumble the opening kickoff in that game too, which they did recover. So something to monitor going forward. But you were there, yesterday, asking Coach O'Shea and asking Jason Hogan. We spent a lot of time here talking about some of the decision making in terms of throwing the ball late as opposed to running when you have Brady Oliveira. What did you make of the decisions the Bombers made there in key moments of the game, deciding to throw with Chris Streveler rather than one? And what are your impressions of Jason Hogan's game plan here in his rookie season as OC?
Yeah, I was super happy that Hogan stood there and answered all the questions that we had about that. And the one thing we probably need to make 100% clear is that Hogan doesn't get to make that call, that 1st and 10 pass call on his own. Like Mike O'Shea would, if he didn't want to do that, he would say, no, you're not doing that, run the football, right? O'Shea has mentioned to us a few times on the coaches show that, if there are situations where the clock needs to be managed or the aggressiveness needs to be managed either up or down, I will pass that along. I won't call the play, but I will pass that along. So this was Jason Hogan and Mike O'Shea fully approving of it. And then afterwards, both of them saying, no, that was the right call. I still don't understand. Hogan mentioned, going for the kill shot, bring the bench up and stuff like that. I don't know that I think there's a substantial difference between 9 and 13 because they're both 2-score games and they require an onside kick, which I could bore you with the stats, but is very improbable that a team recovers an onside kick. So I don't see it as an enormous difference. And there's 0 chance of a turnover. There's almost 0 chance of a turnover, right? If you go run, Sergio Castillo field goal, he's going to hit that field goal every time. And you're up 9 with little risk, and you're kicking off to the point where Toronto gets the ball back with about 1:56 left based on that game, about their own 35-yard line. Best of luck, Nick Arbuckle, in that scenario would kind of been my approach as a coach. I feel like I'm as aggressive. I want teams to be more aggressive all the time, but that was the time where I wanted them to go, you know what, run, kick, and just suffocate them because yes, DeMonte Coxey's going off, but what else have they got? And you can plan for a 2-score game up 9. So I don't love that they did it. And then there's so many threads to this, right, Remis? There's just so many threads. How was Streveler playing in the moment? Yes, he'd completed a bunch of passes, but were any of them deep downfield? There's just so many ways to go that we'll probably spend on our pregame show Saturday. We'll probably spend 15 minutes breaking it down because it's so fascinating and there's so many ways to come at it.
Yeah, they're moving the ball so well with these little screen passes, Stearns or Dembski, mixing in Renzo Oliveira. Maybe they thought they were trying to catch him off guard with the deep ball. Ultimately, it didn't work out, and we can sit here and criticize. But I think that's a play. If you have Zach Collaros at QB, maybe you're like, yeah, okay, that's good to call. But for a guy who had thrown a couple interceptions, had thrown a key interception late earlier, you do like to see the trust that they have in the quarterback. Maybe a bit too much trust, but we'll see how it goes going forward. And going forward, it seems like Zach Collaros could be behind center on Saturday in Calgary. What has he looked like so far in practice? Well, yesterday and today.
Yeah, so today's day 2. He's taken every snap you'd expect the starter to take. So that's a great sign toward him playing on Saturday. he's zipping balls all over the field today. He looks like himself. Whatever you think Zach is in 2025, he looks like himself. He hammered one about 20 yards downfield across the middle into a tight window, and myself and Josh Fry Sam just kind of looked at each other like, okay, yep, that's Zach Collaros right there. And it's the difference between Zach and a lot of quarterbacks in this league. So yeah, there's no reason to think that he won't be the starter on Saturday. It will just become, okay, well, the thing that made you think he could start in the game at Toronto, is that gone, or is that still here, or what was it, right? They thought he was fine. He was only able to play a half of that game and sat out the next game. So if that problem is gone and he's listed with a neck injury, then okay, let's go. But I guess we won't know until Clarence Hicks blasts him in the chest again how good he is to go.
Yeah, do we know anything about the injury at all that caused him to leave that game in the rain against Toronto, or they're just going with neck, some soreness cropped up?
Yeah, they've just said neck, right? It was neck after the hit in the Calgary game, and it was neck after leaving the Toronto game. So we kind of have to believe it was a recurrence of the same injury. We'll get to talk to Zach in probably 20 minutes or so, and he was very tight-lipped about the injury in the first place, so I don't suspect we're going to get much, but we'll get a chance to kind of feel him out.
Okay, and one player back at practice yesterday, talking to the media, Stanley Bryan, had to be pumped to see him out there again. What had been? He said it was a month. It seemed like he just got hurt. I can't believe it's already been a month.
Yeah, he got hurt in that first Calgary game before the bye week, so we didn't really know. And then it's 3 games after that, right? So yeah, Stanley about a month with that ankle problem that just kind of popped up in the Calgary game at Calgary. I didn't really see an incident in the game where we noticed it, but it was bad enough to keep him out for a month. And like you said, he's not used to being out injured. Last season, he had his fainting spell here in Winnipeg in that game. I think it was against Hamilton that he then missed a couple of games, but for his career, like, he's not used to being out injured, but he's back. He feels like he's good to go, and that's going to be a nice help to this Bombers offense, because Mike Vanderpool is the future somewhere on the offensive line, but he had some real struggles in these games. So, and then Eric Lofton. Eric actually, I don't know that Eric stood out as being bad on any particular reps that I can think of. So Lofton against Toronto seemed a little better, but yeah, it'll be nice to have Stanley back and get that 5-man front to the way they expect it to be.
Yeah, and one player you noticed practicing with the ones, Dylan Mitchell, seems like we've been talking about him so much since he got the big contract in the offseason. Was on the practice squad, not practicing with the starters this year. And last week, Coach O'Shea came out and said he can only play. And we're behind Carrick Wheatfall, and he's not a slot player, even though he had started in the slot before in the CFL. Yeah. But it seems like they saw what they needed to see from Corcoran on Friday, and Dylan Mitchell now practicing with the ones. Is he going to get it? Does he make his debut this week?
I think 100% he doesn't. And forgive me, Remis, I have to bail after this answer, but yeah.
Oh, and he bailed. He had to go. It's the media availability. That's okay. DT, appreciate him coming on and making the time while at Princess Auto Stadium. I see that he's still there. That's okay. He can go. He's back. He's gone. That's okay. We'll talk later. We got our Bombers discussion here today. Shout out to Derek for joining me. Catch him on the Coaches Show. That's tonight. I thought it was yesterday, but it is the long weekend, mixing up everyone's schedule. Connor Hrabchak, he's here, going to join me. We're going to pivot off the Bombers discussion, as we spent quite a bit of time on that here today. But Connor, I wanted to ask you, as I bring you up, the Hockey Canada announcing their, what's this thing called? The selection, is a selection camp, Olympic orientation camp. Have to be pretty pumped if you're a Jets fan to see Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele on the list. What stood out to you when looking at this roster as Canada coming off the champions at the Four Nations? and looking to the last time they had best on best at Olympics, 2014, they did win the gold. They won the gold at 2010. So Canada's got to be feeling good, but maybe some pressure to defend their title.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that stood out to me initially, outside of the Winnipeg Jets who made this camp in Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele, was the goaltending. The goaltending has been such a hot topic for Canada, and obviously Binnington is going to start in Italy in the Olympics. He, won them that game in the final against the US. He was incredible in overtime. He's described as a big game goalie, so he's going to be the guy for Canada. But for the amount of talk that there's been about the goaltending and the goaltending depth for Canada, why is there only 3 goalies coming to this camp? It seems like they're pretty set with bringing those 3 guys to Italy as well. I don't know why you wouldn't bring more goalies to test them out, because again, if Binnington's going to play, that's fine. But there's Logan Thompson, there's Mackenzie Blackwood, there's other goalies, good goalies in the NHL right now. And it's just shocking to me that while I don't know if those guys were going to make the team, it's shocking to me that they're only bringing 3 in the first place and not at least getting an extra look at the goaltending battle that could or could not happen for this team.
Yeah, I thought last year, Logan Thompson, you could bet on Coolbet who's going to be the starter, and it seemed like he had the numbers to be the guy, but I think there's some behind-the-scenes stuff going on there, which led them to not picking him, and I don't think you can argue against Jordan Binnington. I think, look, you're practicing, Connor. You want the goalies to be able to, there's only 2 nets, right? I think it's kind of tough to bring in 6 goalies. I feel like goalie, a position more than any others, you could just bring in a guy and have him come in, or maybe not. Maybe they need to go in this orientation and learn about what's happening with the defensive structure so they can be more prepared. But I think early on, there's really no reason to go away from Binnington with the way that he played in the Four Nations Championship. But hey, you look at some, the leaders in goals against average. Darcy Kemper was second behind Hellebuck. Aiden Hill, he was 6th, but there's Logan Thompson 7th, and Blackwood's top 10 as well. Maybe you would want to bring in those guys, but no, they're going to go with the 3. So that definitely stood out. As far as this roster for, the national team's orientation camp, I do, the first name I look for to see, okay, is Mark Scheifele there? I think it's going to be tough. He needs to have he was having a career year last year. That was the year for him to get on. I think he's going to need to be having a very strong year, Connor, if he wants to make it, because there's a lot of competition. I don't know where you stand on if Mark Scheifele can make the cut here for this Team Canada at the Olympic.
Yeah, I mean, last year he was in tough going, he was like leading the NHL in goals right around the time that they were picking the Four Nations roster, and he still didn't even make the team. So it's going to be tough for him for sure. I don't see players like Bo Horvat or Ryan Nugent-Hopkins being, competition for Mark Scheifele, but Sam Bennett was Canada's 4th line center at the Four Nations, right? And he just won the Conn Smythe. And I think that's going to be really tough for Mark Scheifele to beat out Sam Bennett as the 4th line center. Maybe you're looking at replacing an Anthony Cirelli or a Brandon Hagel, but those guys killed penalties for Canada. John Cooper's the coach. Those players play on the Lightning, who he coaches in the NHL. So I think Mark Scheifele is going to be in tough. He's going to have a similar year to last year where he's, near the top of the NHL in goals, playing at a career level. And even then, it might not be enough, as we saw last year, because there are players like Tom Wilson and Robert Thomas who I could see making this team. I think Tom Wilson's going to make this team. I just think because Canada's going to want the big physical presence. And he, added a lot of offense last year as well. So I don't know. I think Mark Scheifele, I know Jets fans probably won't want to hear it, but I do think he'll be in tough to make this Canada roster, just given how few spots are available and which players are on the fringe and which players Canada seems to favor when picking players in the bottom 6.
Yeah, there's, I think injuries for sure will be playing a factor and how well people are playing at the time. But I'm looking at the some new names here on this orientation list that were not on the Four Nations group. Connor Bedard, Quentin Byfield, Macklin Celebrini, Bo Horvat, Zach Hyman, Wyatt Johnston, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Nick Suzuki, John Tavares, Robert Thomas, Carter Verhaeghe, and Tom Wilson. Do you think, the one guy who I had on the team for the Four Nations, I was surprised Zach Hyman didn't make it. But of all those, I would probably put Mark Scheifele at the top of the list. Like, I don't think, unless like Bedard has some amazing season, I don't think he's getting on. Maybe Celebrini, but you mentioned like, I don't think Horvat or Nugent Hopkins would be, but Suzuki could be. I think Mark Scheifele's probably battling with Suzuki, or Robert Thomas as well, or Carter Verhaeghe too. If you want to go with the continuity, put him with some of the Florida guys. So definitely a lot of competition among new forwards on the list.
Yeah, I think a hot take, and I think Macklin Celebrini makes the Italy roster. He played with Canada at the Worlds and played with Sidney Crosby at the Worlds. That just happened in the summer here, and I think Team Canada, Hockey Canada values Macklin Celebrini very highly. He played, very high minutes on his World Junior team. Now, as an 18, 19-year-old, he's already playing at the Worlds with Sidney Crosby, of all people. And I think if he takes another step in the first couple of months of this next NHL season, like if he's even better, which would be saying something because he was already incredible in his rookie season. If he's somehow even better, I could see Macklin Celebrini playing on Team Canada in Italy. And I don't know how progressive Canada will be in terms of, picking him over a Brad Marchand. Are they going to favor a veteran over the younger player that's more unproven? Celebrini versus Tom Wilson. Celebrini would be a player that you'd want playing with skilled guys. I don't think you want him on a fourth line with Sam Bennett and Tom Wilson trying to grind the opponent down and punch people in the face. I think you're going to try and play Celebrini with a Crosby or with a McKinnon or with the skilled players up in the lineup. And I don't know if I'm ready to stand by it yet. I think it'll be a lot of it will be dictated by the first couple of months of the season. But I think Macklin Celebrini is kind of a sleeper to make Canada as young as he is.
Yeah, we're talking about players who are not on the team at the Four Nations who are invited to this orientation camp. Well, who's coming out? I think coming into the playoffs, my first pick would be Brad Marchand. Looked a bit slow, was starting to show his age, but then had this incredible playoffs with Florida. Got rewarded with a crazy contract. Does he come out? How about Travis Konechny, who's kind of the last guy in? Mark Stone, what's his health going to be like? Will he be, his foot speed? Will it allow him to keep up? Because I think a lot of these guys, when you look at the lineup, I don't know how many. I mean, Seth Jarvis was one of the last guys in, but you look at his role, and I don't think they're taking him off for some of these Tampa guys. So a lot of it will be health-based because they seem to be happy with rolling with. It was only a year ago. It's not like before where you had the 2010 into 2014 where maybe you'd have some turnover. As far as defense goes, some of the new players who are not on Team Canada who are invited to the camp, Evan Bouchard, Noah Dobson, but Aaron Ekblad, Thomas Harley was the late addition, Brandon Montour, Mackenzie Weegar. I'm not sure what you see for changes or which of these new invitees would join the players from last year: Doughty, Makar, Morrissey, Borrego, Sanheim, Theodore, Taves. Who do you see pressing for a spot from the new group?
I would like to see, and again, a lot of this can change in the first couple of months of the NHL season. I'd like to see Drew Doughty come out, and I'd like to see a competition per se between Evan Bouchard and Mackenzie Weegar, two right shot defensemen, to take his spot from last year's roster. I think Bouchard is a player that you'll be scrolling your social media late at night and the Oilers will be playing and he'll have a brutal turnover, and Edmonton Sports Talk post-game show will be super fiery because Evan Bouchard does that. But then the playoffs roll around and he like leads all defensemen in points back-to-back years and is playing incredible, playing huge minutes. Mackenzie Weegar, if they want to go more for like a defensive shutdown guy more than Evan Bouchard, who would be, more of an all offense style of guy, I could see that as well. But again, how lenient per se is Hockey Canada going to be with taking out guys like Brad Marchand and Drew Doughty, veterans who have been around a long time but should probably come out of this Olympic roster? Brad Marchand did have an incredible playoff run. I'm not sure if that changes anything from Hockey Canada's perspective, but I think Thomas Harley also proved himself in both of the games against the USA at the Four Nations as being a very strong option for Canada if they want to supplement that left side with Morrissey and Taves. And then on the right side, I think Parayko might still be in. Makar, obviously, he's already been named to the team. He's a superstar. But Weegar and Bouchard, I would like to see a little bit more of a look. I don't know if they're, if Bouchard needs to be on the team because they have Makar running power play one and he's an all offense kind of defenseman. But Mackenzie Weegar, I'm a big fan of him. Would like to see him in for Drew Doughty.
Yeah, I think Harley's kind of played on, and I do wonder if they go with Drew Doughty. I know it was, almost 20 years ago now, but you look at the last time that they went to Italy after winning, they tried to roll with a very similar team as Salt Lake, and it seemed, because of the lockout, some of those players were not in top form coming into 2006, and it did not go well for Canada the last time it's in Italy. So it's in Italy again. They do have some veteran players. You mentioned Brad Marchand, Doughty. Are those guys who Mark Stone as well? Are those guys going to be on this team, or will some of the younger players like Celebrini pushing? You remember, young players Sidney Crosby and Eric Stahl. They were having great seasons in 05-06. Canada still opted to go with the veteran lineup. Who's on that team? I think Bertuzzi was one of the players on 06. And they could have used some of the youth of Stahl and Crosby. It did not go well. I don't know if they've learned in 20 years, it's better to be early making the decision, tough decision than late. But I don't even know what they're going to be doing at this national team's orientation camp.
I know that's what I was saying on Sunday Live too. I was like, is this just like beer league shinny and then they all go home? Like, or are they really like, putting them to the test, putting them through these drills that are really making these tough decisions now? Like, there's still NHL hockey to be played, which I think will be a bigger factor in deciding who makes the team over this camp. Maybe I'm wrong, but I genuinely don't know what this camp is all about. I should have done more research into that.
Yes, it's the August 26th to 28th in Calgary. It's a 3-day off-ice event featuring presentations, team building, and meetings. And I think that does, now that we see that it's okay, off-ice event, why not have a couple extra goalies there just to see how it's good, just in case. So what if someone gets hurt? You're really putting all your eggs in that 3-goalie basket. But all the 24 players from the Four Nations will be there. And the Olympics, February 11 to 22 in Milan. And a lot of pressure. I think there's no more pressure on anyone. I think U.S. needs to have a good showing. They have this roster that's the best that it's been, but Canada will look to, claim another gold medal in best on best, as they did win in 2002, 2010, and 2014. So exciting stuff as we count down, the Jets tickets, single game going on sale. You see the schedule. There's the one game, home game in February. So we'll be getting, I did really miss the Olympics. It was this time last year we were all captivated by Paris. And it'll happen again in February where we all get Olympic fever again.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And just one final note on the roster. I'm glad that, they already named 6 players. Crosby, McKinnon, Makar, McDavid, Point, and Sam Reinhart are all already on the Olympic team. going into the Four Nations, I mean, it didn't really burn them. Brad Marchand did play less as the tournament went on and then went on to have a great playoff run. But I felt that the Brad Marchand pick kind of handicapped Canada a little bit, because Liz and I did our, lineup mock-up, and we were like, if Brad Marchand wasn't already named to this roster, I'm not sure if I would have had him on my team. He turned out to have, a decent tournament in a depth role. And then obviously the playoff run with Florida in a third line role, he was fantastic. But I'm just glad that the 6 players that they've already named, there's no question on any of those players that they might not be on the final roster. Like, those are all top 6, top 4 players who are going to be the core and going to be the reasons Canada wins or loses gold against presumably the US. We'll see. And I'm very excited for the Olympics, Remis, for sure.
Yeah, you could pretty much, pen in before they announced it who was going to be the 5th. I think, Reinhardt or Point. I mean, you could flip a coin. I was interested if they were going to pick a goalie or not, and they didn't, but they only went with the 3 goalies in this camp. So we'll have roster watch all year. Excited to put our fantasy lineups as we head back to best on best at the Olympics in February. Connor, we'll chat again later on in the show. Thanks again for coming in. DT texting me. Sorry I had to bail quickly, but it was short, but a great conversation with Derek about Bombers practice and the game and his questions to OC Jason Hogan and head coach Mike O'Shea. But more Jets and Winnipeg sports conversation. I know Mike McIntyre had a great time at the Downs last night, but first, here's Huss.
Princess Auto, proud supporters of the Bombers home, and of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk. Princess Auto, headquartered and founded right here in Winnipeg, and now coast to coast with 3 Manitoba locations, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and out in Brandon for our friends in Westman. At Princess Auto, you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. And hey, if you can't make it in store, you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Big shout out to Pitt and the gang at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, who are working incredibly hard and have been for the last number of weeks to both save the lodge and the outposts, which they have done miraculously, and now getting ready to welcome guests back in and pick up where they left off before we all had to leave. Of course, Aikens Lake is a one-of-a-kind, world-class fly-in fishing destination where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as amazing as the fishing is, the hospitality from the Aikens team is even better. If you're thinking about maybe getting out on the water before the end of the year, when they do reopen, which is hopefully soon, they would love to have some WSTers give it a crack. We've got a special 10% discount running for the remainder of the year. If you mention you heard about Aikens on Winnipeg Sports Talk, go to aikenslake.com for more information and to contact them about availability to get out on the water before the end of the 2025 fishing season. And hey, we're right in the middle of wedding season, guys. If you've been looking into your closet and realize you need to up your menswear game, the place to be is F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown. You've got custom suits starting at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Pop by and see them down at 190 Smith Street, or go online, F Apparel, that's EPH Apparel, for more information and to make an appointment. And don't forget, great discounts for wedding parties when the boys get their suits for the big day over at F Apparel.
There's us. He's enjoying a bit of a longer weekend, getting out to some golf. I saw that he won his, the head-to-head tournament with his buddies. So we'll hear about all that tomorrow. And tomorrow, Huss and Jeff Hamilton will also have a CFL 110. But right now, I'm to be joined by Mike McIntyre, the Winnipeg Free Press. Mike usually covering the Jets beat. Bit of a different kind of summer here, Mike. How's it going? Thanks for coming on. I know you had the week off last week. Hope it was great, but back on here the first week of August.
Good to be back. Remo, I got to ask you, Hustler, so he's got a golf tournament with his buddies. First of all, that sounds rigged. I've never golfed. I've never had the pleasure of golfing with Hustler, but is he like, we've all seen the videos of Donald Trump when he golfs, right? Does he have like a caddy that will walk ahead and grab his ball out of a bunker and just throw it into the fairway? Like, is that why he's winning his own golf tournament?
Yes, he's like Mr. Burns with Smithers and all the multiple balls placing them.
It all sounds rigged to me.
I've golfed with Huss. He can swing it. He can swing it. I'll surprise you. He's got a good stroke. So I don't know about the competition in this tournament, but we'll hear about it. Hear about it tomorrow.
Well, I got to work on my golf game. I actually played 4 times last week, which was great. Although honestly, I say work on my game. I think it's beyond anything salvageable. But I had fun. I know lots of people think golf is a good walk spoiled. I take the opposite view. It's just fun to get out, and regardless of what the score looks like. And I'll be covering a little bit of golf later this month coming up. Always one of my favorite events is the Manitoba Open this year, which is going to be at Breezy. They're starting this 5-course rotation where they're going to move it around. So looking forward to that. And actually covering a little horse racing today, Remo. I was at the Manitoba Derby last night, and let me first of all say what a turnout. It was great to see. The track was absolutely electric. It was alive in a way that I haven't seen it like that in years. Like, that was an enormous turnout. I believe ASD broke a record for its own record for Derby wagering. There was like almost $4 million wagered. I contributed a very, very, very tiny portion of that. I did win $10, but I spent a little more than 10, so I came out behind. But it was a great night at the track, just a massive crowd. And the Derby race itself, which I'm actually writing about today, my piece will be in tomorrow's Free Press. I have never seen a race quite like this. And if folks haven't, there it is on the video. So first of all, there were 8 horses in the Manitoba Derby. It is incredible, Remo, that all of them remained upright, because there was so much contact in this race, bumping, clipping, and it all led to something I've never seen in my life. And I'm sure it's happened before, but I've never seen it, which is 4 different objections that get filed after the race was over. It was an incredible response from the crowd as each one was announced, and they were all staggered like a couple minutes after each other. It's like, and there's another objection. This time it's this horse on this horse. And the stewards had their hands full. This was like a 20-minute video review while they looked at all the objections that had been filed. And in the end, you'll see that for folks who can see this on video right now, the number 7 horse, which is winning the race, the damage is already done at this point, by the way, because all of the nefarious activity happened early in the race. Number 7 would go on to win. He was the favorite, and no doubt a lot of bettors had number 7 on their ticket. But what ended up happening after this marathon review is number 7 was disqualified, because he essentially, and when I say he, I mean the horse and obviously the jockey, he caused this chain reaction, which led to all these objections early on in the race, where he like cuts across traffic, bumps a whole bunch of horses, which bump other horses. It's a little hard to maybe see with the naked eye here. Like they slowed it down and really zoomed in, but just a wild sequence of events. I know there's certainly some bettors out there that weren't happy, obviously, because they thought they had won and then they didn't. And this was the wildest part of all, Remo. Because the review took so long, they actually went ahead with the trophy presentation in the winner's circle to number 7. And like the trainer and the owners, they did all the pictures and, congratulations, you won. And then like 20 minutes later, somebody would have had to go approach all of them and say, yeah, we're going to need that trophy back. So there you see, like, inquiry was on the screen, but they obviously didn't want to just keep this going indefinitely. And I don't know if they thought that number 7, like originally the first 3 objections were not against 7. The fourth one, though, which was one of the horses that was being accused of bumping, they then filed an inquiry objection against 7. And that's what led to, and that's obviously what came out in the video review. So it was crazy. Crazy lengthy review. And it reminded me of this, Remo, like you've probably seen it on like soap operas where at a wedding where they say, is there anyone out there that has an objection to this marriage going ahead? And like in soap operas, inevitably 1 or 2 people always show up at the church, right? Well, this was like 4 different people standing up and saying, and I have an objection as well to how this race was run. So yeah, it was never a dull moment, that's for sure. But definitely made it for a derby to remember.
Yeah, we had Darren on Friday teeing it up. Take Charge Tom, the big favorite. And I see Rob Noakes in our chat, who's very heavily involved with ASD, who says one of the worst rides ever by a jockey and one of the greatest horses to ever travel to Assiniboia Downs. So unfortunate to have that much controversy in a situation where you're giving a horse the trophy and then taking it away. So video review plaguing all sports, but then it seems like they eventually got it right here in this one.
Yeah, I mean, like you obviously can't undo damage that gets done in the race. And you can't, like, the problem in a live race like this is, so when like 7 cuts all these people off and it causes like others to get pinched and bumped and stuff like that, like you can't make that up in a race. And there's no way to figure out, okay, this horse would have finished in this spot had that not happened. Like it's like a chain reaction, really. So, I mean, what ended up happening here is the guy that kind of caused all this, that won the race, gets DQ'd, and then everybody moves up a spot. So the horse that finished second, gets first and blah, blah, blah. Would that have been, like, if 7 doesn't do any of this out of the gate, is that the way the race finishes? Who knows? There's no way of knowing. And you can't rerun the race. Like maybe if this was a 100-yard dash involving human beings, like you'd rerun these are horses that just ran over a mile. Like they're done. They're not running now for a couple weeks. So you can't just say, okay, let's redo that to see what, how it would have played out. So yeah, it's unfortunate in a way because you obviously want a clean race. But if you're looking for like drama and storylines, there was plenty of it. And yeah, I believe I'd have to go back and look, but this horse, yeah, the favorite was an import. The jockey obviously has to take a lot of responsibility for what happened. And again, I've seen comments online, like some people very angry that the horse was disqualified. I assume those are people that would have won money if he hadn't been. And, firing insults towards the Assiniboia Downs over it and the stewards who make the decision. But then I've seen others, like the chat person you just mentioned, who called it like a reckless ride. And it's dangerous. Like, here's one other thing about yesterday, Remo. I'm writing about this as well. Like, if you ever needed a reminder how dangerous horse racing can be, there was tragedy after the second race yesterday. The horse that won the race in the second, I believe it was a broken ankle. I haven't heard officially what happened, but the horse collapsed after the finish line, and it was awful to see. And the horse didn't make it, and the horse died, and that happens in horse racing. And when you add in, as fast as they're going and that many horses, and then you've got contact, like that's dangerous. I mean, I wrote a big feature a year ago on a jockey that was permanently paralyzed as a result of an on-track accident. So thankfully, everybody in the Derby, despite all this contact, remained upright, the horses and the humans, but it certainly had the potential to be ugly. And it speaks to obviously a high stakes race. Like, everybody wants to win. There's the competitive fire, but there's an element of danger for sure. And we saw this was a pretty dangerous race the way it played out.
Interesting stuff, Mike. And you did note in front of one of the larger crowds that you've seen, I think it's nice to see Assiniboia Downs, since moving to this weekday schedule.
Yeah.
I know it was Monday yesterday, and they have had it on the long weekend Monday for a while, but the success that they're having there at the Downs with this racetrack, with off-track betting, and bringing local crowds in as well.
It's been huge, and I know there's some people say, well, why did they get away from weekends? I used to love when we could go on the weekends. Well, the reason was multiple reasons, actually. I mean, one was the ability to kind of carve out a niche online in other countries. Yes. And they've made huge strides in where they're not exclusive Monday to Tuesday, Wednesday, but there's a lot less competition early in the week, and Assiniboine Downs, they've made massive inroads in the online betting community, and so that's one thing. And the other is they're not competing with everything else that goes on in Manitoba during the summer. I mean, you look at like just a couple of Fridays ago, you had a Bomber game, 30,000+ people. You had Folk Fest going on. You had the Great Outdoor Comedy Festival, over 10,000 each night there. You had the Tacos and Tequilas Festival. We just had the Fringe Festival wrap up. We got Folkorama going on now, and crowds are big throughout the week, but even bigger on weekends. Like, there's just so much to do, and that doesn't even take into consideration all the people that go out to cottage country. So that's why they got away from it, and I think the results speak for themselves, that they're breaking wagering records. Like I said, the attendance last night, that's the biggest I've seen in ages. And so, they're definitely doing something right. You're never going to make everybody happy, but certainly I think the majority are quite pleased with the way it's played out.
Yeah, even on this most recent Friday, the Bombers and the Sea Bears on the same night. Mike, I don't think we've had you on since Dylan Samberg and the Jets agreed to that contract at the final hours before having to go to a hearing. They were in Toronto, prepared, but they get it done. What was your reaction to seeing the Samberg 3-year contract?
Yeah, I a little surprised, obviously, by the term. I thought it would be something bigger. I'm not surprised they got it done. Like, Remo, there was 0.000 chance that this was going to go to arbitration. I know there are some people, sweating bullets over the fact that a deal hadn't been done, and the deadline was looming. But I think they always had a deal in the back pocket. Was this the deal? Probably not. I think the desire to do something longer would have been there, but I do think this makes a lot of sense, especially from Dylan Samberg's perspective. The fact that it's just 3 years, the cap is rising. We started to see this past year a little more offense to his already stellar defensive game. And if he can add a little more offensive pop now over the next 3 years, and I don't see why he can't. This is a guy who's playing huge minutes. I think his role is only going to increase with the Jets. It's certainly not going to get reduced. There's a chance to really make that next contract pop. I know some people are worried about what this means for his future in Winnipeg. I am not one of those people. The fact that it's just 3 years, I don't think this in any way speaks to a potential exit from Winnipeg in 3 years. Like, I just don't. And, Dylan Samberg spoke last week and certainly said everything you'd want a player to say about playing in Winnipeg. And I believe that's truly the case, that he loves it here. It's a great fit. And I could see Dylan Samberg being a Winnipeg Jet for life. Obviously, this leaves the door open for an even bigger contract 3 years from now. But I have no reason to believe that won't be a contract with the Winnipeg Jets. And, it's interesting. You look ahead to 2 summers from now, and you're going to have Josh Morrissey and Dylan Samberg both entering the final years of their deal. All of a sudden, the summer of 2027 looks pretty significant. And, those are probably in 2 years from now, like those are still going to be, your top two guys on the blue line. And I think from the Jets' perspective, there would be no reason that we couldn't see extensions to both guys, kind of like I expect to see Kyle Connor and Adam Lowry get extended between now and the start of the coming season in October. So, yeah, I don't worry about the term. I think it's a great deal for Dylan Samberg to open the door for even more money down the road. I think from the Jets, sure, there's always risk. You would have loved to have locked him up a little longer than you did. There's risk to the player too. I mean, anytime you take a shorter deal than maybe what people think you might get, I mean, that opens up the door to things like injuries and that can certainly hamper your next contract. But I do think that it's a great deal for Dylan Samberg. I think it's a fine deal for the Winnipeg Jets. And I think the relationship between the two is as good as it's ever been, and there's no concerns there going forward.
Yeah, Samberg's agent, Pete Rutilli, just followed Winnipeg Sports Talk on X. I was going to send him a DM and say, hey, you did a great job at maximizing value for Samberg. Here, I'm sure the Jets would have liked to have him long-term, but for the reasons you mentioned, Samberg does get some security in terms of a 3-year deal, and I think there is some risk for him for sure. But with the cap going up and maybe some more offense coming to his game, certainly an opportunity for him to increase the AAV for his next deal, which would be signed before he turns 30 years old. And yeah, that 28-29 offseason with Morrissey, Samberg, and Dylan DeMello becoming UFAs will be an interesting one for the Jets defense. But turning towards the rest of the offseason now, Chevy's ticked off the to-do list of the RFAs, but it's the UFAs. And it seemed like a couple years ago, when it was Hellebuyck and Scheifele entering their final years of their contract, we were kind of up in arms here saying, oh, what's going to happen with them? The Jets should, trade them if they're not going to re-sign them. But they did end up signing those twin contracts on Thanksgiving weekend. Seemed like much more chill around whether or not these get done. Is that justified?
I think it is. And I think, you go back to the Scheifele-Hellebuyck situation, that this was an organization at the time, Remo, that was kind of at a crossroads. Like, they had to pick a path. And I mean, quite honestly, that path was largely going to be dictated by what happened with Scheifele and Hellebuyck. If those guys didn't want to extend, you were probably looking at a significant rebuild, perhaps a complete teardown of the roster. But the fact that those guys did get extended kept that window open, and it's a window that I believe remains open for the foreseeable future here. And it's why, there's no concern in my eyes about whether, if you're the Jets, do you want Connor and Lowry extended? Of course you do, because they're such important pieces of who you are right now and what you plan to continue to be, that the idea of moving on from either just would be absurd at this point. Now, obviously, you got to find a happy spot with regards to the money. Kyle Connor's obviously going to get a lot more than Adam Lowry, but both guys are just so valuable in so many ways. Kyle Connor can score like few others in the league. Adam Lowry is the face of this franchise and the heart and soul, quite frankly, of this team. And his value extends beyond the ice and, into the community. Obviously, he's a bit older. He's coming off now what was a pretty major surgery that's going to cause him to miss the beginning of the year. And that adds, I guess, a wrinkle or a wrench potentially into things. Not one that I believe will be impossible or even all that difficult to overcome. And yeah, I think those are both very high on the priority list for the Jets, to get those done. And do we see a similar scenario around Thanksgiving this year where that gets done? Is it earlier? Is it at some point in August? Does it happen just before camp begins in mid-September? I can't give you a timeline other than to say I'll be stunned if both guys aren't extended prior to the start of the season on October, whatever it is, against the Dallas Stars. I fully expect both deals will be done by then.
Yeah, so if we had to set a deadline here, Mike, is it the start of the regular season like we saw with before, okay, maybe there's some concern here that could we be entering into a season where they're in the final year of their deal and you could risk having one of them leave. I think Kyle Connor leave, he's your top scorer, top among the NHL point leaders.
Yeah.
If you have a situation, you just saw Ehlers leave for nothing. The Jets would be in a really tough spot if they were not able to get something done before the start of the season.
Yeah, and in that sense, I guess the player's got a little more control here than the team does. Like the team's a little vulnerable when you have a player that's approaching the final year of their deal, because in a lot of ways, you're at the mercy of what the player wants to do. We just saw that. Nikolai Ehlers didn't want to sign an extension before last season. He didn't want to sign one during the season, and he didn't want to sign one after the season ended, and he's gone. And you didn't get anything back for him other than the roster spot and the cap space that he created. I just don't see Kyle Connor's situation playing out in a similar way. I don't. I believe Kyle Connor will be a Winnipeg Jet for life. I believe Adam Lowry will be a Winnipeg Jet for life. When Scheifele and Hellebuck signed Remo, they signed identical 7-year extensions for the same AAV. I don't think it's going out on a limb for me to suggest that won't happen this time. Adam Lowry and Kyle Connor will not be signing the same deal for the same term and the same AAV. You can bank on that. But I do believe both guys get signed. And, when does it happen? Well, look, there's no urgency per se. They don't have to get it done tomorrow. It's not like the Samberg thing where you do have an actual deadline. Like, there's no deadline here per se. I think the deadline, though, internally and unofficially would be the start of the season for sure. And, the players will start to trickle back into town here in early September, usually after Labor Day. They start getting together and skating. That's when business kind of picks up. So I'll be surprised if it happens in August. I mean, it could happen this month. But to me, September is probably more realistic. That's when the players, attention is turning back to the season coming up. They get back into town. You can have, easy sit down, face-to-face type stuff. I suspect, though, there's some groundwork that's already been done in both scenarios. And, Kevin Cheveldayoff, as far back as the exit meetings back in May, talked about the importance to get both guys done. So I don't anticipate any big hurdles. Probably a little bit of patience is required, but if it's not done in August, I don't think anybody should take that as a reason to panic. Now, if opening night gets here and we still don't have deals with one or both, okay, then there's some reason to start getting a little worried about where things are headed. I just don't anticipate that being the case in either case.
Okay, so we're taking it easy this time. I remember a couple years ago it was, oh man. And I think you're right. The franchise was in a different situation with the playoff performance. They're coming off a President's Trophy. Why wouldn't a player want to sign with the team that just finished the regular season with a top record? Well, we'll be still watching here over the next month. It is August, but it'll ramp up the discussions. It's September. We mentioned when players come, the skates begin, and training camp as well. But Mike, it's been great talking with you. What's up for your rest of the week here as we, what are we, August 5 right now?
Yeah. So horse racing is on the menu today, and looking forward to writing up, putting into words all the craziness that happened last night at Assiniboia Downs. And then Kenny and I have our monthly Jets mailbag coming up. So folks, get your questions in. I know folks do have a lot of questions, always a popular feature on our website. So whether it's on social media or just regular email, or if you want to write me a good old fashioned letter and send it by snail mail, go ahead and do that too. But if you have Jets related questions, send them my way or Kenny's way, and we'll tackle that in our mailbag that we're working on this week as well.
Perfect. Can't wait to read that, Mike. It's been great talking with you. Sounds like a crazy night last night at the Downs, and always some Jets topics no matter what month of the year. So thanks again, Mike, for joining me here today on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Have a great week. Take care.
There he is, Mike McIntyre. He's in the Free Press. He's on social media, Mike McIntyre, WPG. It's the CBL Championship weekend around the corner. I'll be talking about the Sea Bears season with Joey Slattery. But first, here's Huss.
Many of you might be saying, you know what, I really should go all in, and maybe I need a new jersey or a hat or a shirt or something to wear repping the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Well, if you are in that predicament, might I suggest you head down to Royal Sports, the ultimate sports superstore in Winnipeg. For over 50 years, you'll find a ton of Blue Bomber gear, including some really cool stuff that you won't find anywhere else, some new era exclusives over at Royal, not to mention everything to get you ready for Jet season. Maybe you wait till tomorrow for the confirmation that Dylan Samberg is signing long-term with the Jets before you get a 54. You could go and get your 13, Gabe Vilardi right now. You could go get a 19, Jonathan Taves. Whatever you want in those jerseys, Royals got you covered. Not to mention, as we get into August long weekend, soccer, softball, tennis, baseball, running, bikes, that massive Yeti section with literally everything for you campers or outdoor people. It's all at Royal Sports waiting for you. 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to give them a follow as well on Insta at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merch drops and sale information. I'm glad I wasn't at Boston Pizza watching this massacre or last night, but tonight might be a great night to go for maybe a pierogi pizza, maybe a Royale, some world-famous BP wings, a couple of ice-cold schooners, and, of course, the new BP summer menu with the Blue Jays and Orioles on the big screen. CFL gets going on Thursday. No better place to watch all the CFL games than your local BP. And, of course, NFL season just around the corner. Staying at home, can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
There's us. He'll be back. He'll be back tomorrow. I can't wait to chat with him and chop it up. But coming up or joining me right now, CBL broadcaster, reporter, play-by-player, does it all. Joey Slattery. Joey, let me find the right scene here to bring you on. Thanks for joining me today. How's it going?
Oh, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. I always love joining you here and love that you're taking care of everything while Huss is away. You're the one that's doing all the hard work, eh? While he's out at play.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll be off. I'll be off next week. Hustlers, he isn't taking the full week off, but he's taking a few days here and there throughout the summer. I'm happy to fill in and do my best. But we're talking Sea Bears. 2 games this weekend. Friday, nice win at home against Saskatchewan, the rival Rattlers. But yesterday, going up against the top team, Vancouver Bandits, Sunday, not great. And that's kind of how it's been going for the Sea Bears this season, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to get a grasp on this team. It's been a weird year just in general. They're going to the conference finals. Doesn't matter what happens, right? And as much as they've been trying to stay competitive, they've been competitive. I think that's the one thing that's lost on this is, as much as they've not been winning as many games as people would like, they're still below 500. There's still a chance to finish 500. But this is a team that is hosting championship weekend. And at the 20-game mark, this season is extended to 24 games, but at the 20-game mark, they had one more win than all the other hosts had before them in the past. So there is some optimism there when you compare it to other host teams in the past. But that Saturday, or the Friday game rather, was a weird one. It was a good one because, you know, they played really well. Their first half was incredibly strong. They got out to like a 16-0 run or something like that, or 16-1 run, whatever it was, to start the first quarter. And it seemed like they were just going to roll through Saskatchewan, who is not in the playoffs. They're really just playing for their own tape. Tevian Jones was back. As we may remember, Tevian Jones was released by the team a little earlier in the season. He got a bigger role with Sask, and it looked like he really wanted to stick it to him in the third quarter, to the point where a 17-point deficit was erased. I think Saskatchewan led by as much as like 7 or 8. It became a lot more entertaining than people probably would have liked to have seen it. That said, they did win the game. And to me, you know, they had multiple players contributing. When they were good, they were good. Problem is they went to Vancouver, and Vancouver is a likely opponent for them in that conference final on August 22nd. And they put up a stinker. Like, they lost by 32 points. It was never close. And they were really getting beaten in areas where they've been addressing. They were trying to address, right? They had something like, he was 27 points off turnovers, 24 fast break points. Like, these are things that the Sea Bears have been having a problem with all year, specifically transition defense and slowing down teams. They were outscored in the paint. They allowed 50 points in the paint, and they're up against Tyree Samuel, who is one of the best Canadians in this league, just overall best players in this league. He's like 6'11". He played at Florida. Really, really good basketball player. And then Mitch Creek, who I still argue is the best player in this league. He's an Australian player who's just does everything right. Those guys combined for nearly 50 points or whatever it was. But it was a game that Mike Taylor said would be a measuring stick, you know, to kind of see where they are. And if that is the case, there's a lot of room for improvement with not a lot of runway left. Only 3 games left on the season. And really none of them have any kind of, you know, anything to them, right? They're playing Niagara, who's already clinched their spot in the conference final in the East as the top team in the East. Then they play Brampton. So they go from the beasts of the East, if you will, the first place Niagara River Lions, and then they go to the worst in the East, the least of the East, if you will, in Brampton. So it's going to be a weird swing from Wednesday to Friday. The Sunday game to end the season might be interesting because Edmonton and Calgary, even Vancouver right now, Vancouver can lock up first place in the West with another win. But if, you know, things hit the fan, it'll be a 3-way race right now for that second home game, which will be between Calgary and Edmonton. So Edmonton might be playing with something on the line on that Sunday, which might give that last playoff feel, if you will, before they go into championship weekend, because there's going to be a lot of downtime when the playoffs are happening on the, I believe it's the 14th and 16th before that conference game on the 22nd. So I'm sure they'd like to see not only themselves improve in that realm, maybe get 3 wins, but also get a game or 2 that feels like a playoff game so they can carry that momentum into that prep week.
Yeah, Sea Bears 9-12 with 3 games left, but because they are the host city, they are gifted a berth into the conference final in the CBL Championship weekend, which will be here. Really excited for all that. What, the weekend of August 22 to 24 with activities going on, leading up to it. But we did have, some off-court drama with the Sea Bears. Last year, we had the whole Teddy Allen, Byron Mullins, but it was not quite on that level. But they did suspend forward Emmanuel Acott. What happened here with South Sudan trying to call him up? And does this really hurt the Sea Bears going into championship weekend? And is there anything that can happen here? Can you explain the situation here to our listeners?
Yeah, so essentially what happened is South Sudan called him up to play on the national team. He does carry citizenship with South Sudan, so he's eligible to play for South Sudan. The problem is it happened pretty quickly, and by FIBA regulations, they're supposed to give 30 days notice, and where the Sea Bears are taking issue is that apparently this came up very quickly without the proper, channels to make this happen. And he's a very important player to this team. I mean, you can make the argument that he might be the most irreplaceable guy on the team. That doesn't mean he's the best player on the team, but he's a solid 3 guard. He plays a solid 3, but he can guard from 1 to 5, meaning he can guard the point guard, and if he needs to, he can guard the center. Like there's not a lot of guys that have that kind of versatility in terms of defense. And you can he was playing his best basketball in those last 3-4 games for Winnipeg. throughout the year in the broadcast when I'm doing play-by-play, Dave Crook and myself would talk a lot about, if this guy hits, like this team has it, like he could be the guy that really puts this guy up a level as that, you can't call him a depth guy. Like he's a starter and he started most of these games, but he was a guy that, he can facilitate, he can score, his, shooting has gotten better, his free throw shooting needed to get better. But it was more of a shock. Like this was a guy that they expected to be with the team through championship weekend. He's a Winnipegger. He's marketable. And, the team has taken issue. They've formally disputed this. I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know if he'll be back. My gut tells me he won't. And it sounds like there's a lot of reparation that needs to happen there in terms of the relationship between him and the team. And I'm not really saying Mike Taylor, like the general manager, like this is something that is kind of went through to the organization and owner David Asper. So, the team is disputing it. We'll see what comes out of it. I don't know what the timelines are with that or what it would take to get this figured out. Their games, they play as early as I think August 12th. And the AfroBasket 2025, which is where he's competing, is I think the championship is at the same time as championship weekend. So even that scenario where he plays there and then comes back for championship weekend doesn't seem to be a reality. So this is one that's going to be, it's a tough one for the Sea Bears, and especially this time of the year. Where it burns on Remis is it happened after the signing window closed. So they're not even able to find a replacement for him. They're kind of stuck with who they've dealt with, which might be a blessing in disguise. It's been a revolving door anyway, but they've looked to Nathan Balamu, who's been a great story. This is a guy from Ontario. He just finished up at Lakehead, played for Ryan Thompson, who's the assistant coach for the Sea Bears. He's the head coach at Lakehead and has played great as of recently. He started the last 2 games, but he's not where Emmanuel Acott was. There's still some years in development. This is a guy that's a feel-good story that's elevated. He has a great opportunity here, and the Sea Bears are hoping that a guy like him can really push through. They're going to have to depend on guys like Mo Kalou, who, joined the team a few weeks ago, but has been dealing with injuries. He's gotten a little more playing time in the last couple of games. Is that a guy that can step up? Can Alex Campbell step up? Right? A guy that's been struggling throughout the year, a veteran in this league, but, you're hoping maybe, is this the time where we have no other options? Can we put him in there and do the job, or at least help to do the job that Emmanuel Acott was doing? I don't know, but it's one of the main issues for the Sea Bears going into championship week, and the other one being they have too many Americans to put on a 12-man active game day roster. So it means there has to be 1 to 2 healthy scratches. Right now they have Terry Roberts still on the list. Appears that he's back in Winnipeg, that we saw on Instagram yesterday through his stories. And then, the fact that they add Jared Cumberland, now they've got 6 Americans. 2 will have to be healthy scratches just because of regulations, which makes for another hard conversation for Mike Taylor and could creep in terms of locker room issues and confidence issues with these guys, because you don't want to have the extra drama, but now you got to make these hard decisions. And now you have Emmanuel Acott gone, which makes those decisions even harder on how you're going to approach that lineup from day to day.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But one thing that's been really noticeable about the Sea Bears this year is just the amount of roster changes. And you go back to year 1, 2 years ago, it seems like a bit of an anomaly because I don't think it really changed at all. And it seems like every week they're adding a new guy. Is that just the reality of this league where guys come and go? I mean, how much is the Sea Bears roster changing compared to some of the other teams around the league?
Honestly, right on par. This is what the CEBL is. I think you're right. It was an anomaly the first year. Fans were able to cozy up to some players, right? A lot of them returned the next year. Some didn't, but they had at least that 1 year where they were all able to kind of be intact and people were able to really fall in love with the personalities. I think that's been a big thing this year. People don't know who's on the team from week to week, right? I feel like we've had 3 home openers where we're being reintroduced to a new team. I think right now, off the top of my head, the only people that have been here from the start are Jalen Williams and Alex Campbell, Nate Balamu, who wasn't really supposed to be part of the mix. So it's a team that, has been consistently trying to find chemistry and rhythm, which is hard when so many guys are coming in and out. But that said, this was a team that Mike Taylor was hoping would be consistent from a roster perspective. The guys that were signed were expected to stay throughout the year. Things have happened where new guys were signed or guys went to Summer League and the guys that replaced them while they were at Summer League were really good. So now they're staying. Some guys were unhappy with their roles and they left. but the intention was they wanted to stay here for championship weekend. So they do want that consistency. It's just really hard to find in this league. The only teams that have really not had a ton of roster turnover is Edmonton. They've been very consistent with their roster, only a couple of additions. Calgary's been relatively quiet as well. But most teams around the league, like, there's a lot of moving around, a lot of people moving from one team to the other, looking for a bigger role. Guys that have gone off to summer league or have to leave early for European leagues and stuff like that, or the NBA G League, whatever the case may be. But it is something that has been a storyline, but I think it's something that we might have to get used to moving forward. It's hard to keep guys in this league. They're playing for numbers. They're playing for their next contract. So as much as a lot of these guys would love to be team guys and, take a back seat, it could really affect their livelihood in the next contract, right? So I think this is why you see so much of it. I thought maybe with the championship weekend, there'd be more enticement for guys to stay. But we haven't really seen that from, guys like Tevian Jones, who would have been a great third, fourth guy on this team, but he wanted to be the number one, so he left. That said, the guys that are the core of this team have been playing for a while now. They're very good players in this league. Jalen Harris, again, second-round draft pick of the Toronto Raptors. Simi Chatum might be the best Canadian in this league, probably. He is in the MVP conversation. He's been phenomenal. He's a unicorn player in some ways. But they are the guys that are leading the charge, taking the voice in the room. And it's a matter of they just have to get it together for those two games. But as we talked about in the Target Score podcast, you'll be coming out tomorrow morning. We talked about that, Dave Larkins and I. It's just there's nothing right there right now that makes you think that they can flip on the switch for two games, right? We've seen flashes of it. If they can get these 3 games and build that rhythm and momentum into championship weekend, there might be a little bit more optimism. But right now, no one's looking at the championship game, Remis. It really comes down to they have to win that conference final, and it's going to be a really hard Vancouver team, a really hard Calgary team, or an Edmonton team that seems to be peaking at the right time. Started slow, but have kind of been on the upward trajectory throughout the season.
Vancouver looks very strong at 17-5 and a plus 225 point differential, far and ahead the tops in the league. And the Sea Bears, 9-12 minus 106 point differential. Third to last. So I mean, it would. But
the interesting thing, Remis, Vancouver's kryptonite is Calgary. Calgary has swept the season series. They've not beaten Calgary this year. So 3 of their losses have come to Calgary. One of them has come to Winnipeg, right? Winnipeg beat them at home. Winnipeg's only won 4 games at home too. That's another thing that, in years past, home was safe and it was the road that was a problem. This year it's flipped, and it's the worst year for that because you have no road playoff games. You have to win at home. So, these their 2 last regular season games at home, there's a little bit more in that regard for Winnipeg because they really have to get their confidence up at home. And Niagara being the defending champs, that's a bit of a coup for them too, right?
Yeah, well, we're looking ahead. Championship weekend, it's here. Big celebration. You're going to be a part of it, and we'll be seeing you on TSN as well, Joey. So pretty awesome. Looking forward to that taking place here August 22 to 24, where the Sea Bears gifted a berth to the Western Conference Final, and we'll see a new champion this season.
Yeah, no, totally looking forward to it. I'll be doing it for TSN on the West side. The Western playoffs up to championship weekend. Looking forward to championship weekend. And also, shout out WPW. I'm wearing my outdated Red Hot Summer shirt because they're doing the halftime show. It's going to be a Slam Jam 2, they're calling it. So I'm super stoked for that. But last time I was sideline reporting, so I was able to watch. This time I have to watch from the play-by-play desk. I'm a little upset about that, but that's the other thing I'm looking forward to this week. Apart from the Niagara game, love WPW. So if I can give them a shout out, always willing to.
There you go. Well, I see Ezzy in chat. He's going to tomorrow night's game, Canada Life Center against Niagara, and Thursday fan appreciation. No, Friday. My days are all mixed up. Yeah. My days are mixed up. I thought tomorrow was Tuesday, but tomorrow is in fact Wednesday. It's the long weekend against Brampton, Friday, 7:30. So, Joey, thanks for joining me. And let everyone know where they can find all your work on Instagram and with the Target Score podcast.
Yeah, appreciate that. My Instagram at Joey Slattery TV. That's where you'll find my game day reports, scoreboards, all that stuff. Target Score podcast on YouTube at Target Score podcast, at Target Score WPG on Instagram. New episode coming tomorrow ahead of the the last 3 games of the season. And I think I have a YouTube channel at Joey Slattery TV, something like that. Not even sure. I should know that. But yeah, Joey Slattery on YouTube. The reports are up there as well. But yeah, follow along. It's going to be a great time. We're going to be very busy from here into the end of the season, and make sure that you're following along on CBL Plus, TSN Plus, and of course the playoffs will be on TSN.
Slattery told you I'll follow him. Joey, thanks so much for joining me here. Talking a little Sea Bears. Awesome stuff, Joey.
Always a pleasure joining you, man. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, you too. There he is, Joey Slattery. Nice week of basketball on the court, Canada Life Center. Only 3 games left for the Sea Bears, so exciting stuff there. Connor Hrabchak, he's back joining me very shortly, but I do have to give a couple shout-outs here. Breezy Bend, all golf reports brought to you by Breezy Bend, home of this year's Manitoba Open. Thinking about making Breezy your long-term golf home? Contact Corey Johnson at the clubhouse or visit breezybend.ca for more info and get on the waiting list. We are looking forward to the Manitoba Open at Breezy Bend. Well, that's later on this month. Go to their website, manitobaopen.com, and check out info on the Pro-Am. The Pro-Am, Wednesday, August 20. And the Gold Eyes, they're home. They're on the road right now, but they'll be back this weekend. Great chance to get out to the ballpark. Let me just pull up the schedule right here. Yes, Friday night and next week as well. Tickets 204-982 base. And again, we had such a great time back in June getting out to the WST patio party, Blue Cross Park, a great location to host your large gathering. And live racing continues at Assiniboia Downs tonight. Had some great weather, and from what Mike McIntyre told us, what a race it was. Controversy at the Manitoba Derby, but live racing tonight and tomorrow. And the Downs is open every day with VLTs, great dining options, free admissions, and free parking. And if you're planning on going to the races, make a reservation in the clubhouse dining room and enjoy the world-famous prime rib buffet. And follow along on Assiniboia Downs YouTube during live racing. Kurt and Stretch will give you their picks. Hustler and I continue our duel at the Downs, and we'll be back at it tonight. And time for fans feedback, brought to you by Fans First, your best option for buying and selling tickets in Winnipeg with no fees. What you see is what you pay. Certainly the best place if you have a pair of seats, you're looking to buy or sell some extra tickets. I can tell you, as someone who's used Fans First on the odd occasion, so user-friendly, customer service is great, and you're getting paid the next day, right after the game. Usually, we're talking Fans First for Jets, but they do Bombers as well. When they're sold out, Fans First, the place to go. And some comments here from the Bomber game. Derek Schmidt says the kick returns were amazing from Trey Vaval. Leslie Mitchnick says, interesting that Jason Hogan basically threw Strevy under the bus on the third interception. He definitely needs to throw that ball to a different spot, but it was still a bad call that is deciding to pass there. And Phyllis says her experience, we're sitting in section 141, and suddenly there's Vaval running toward us. I jumped to my feet and just cheered like crazy as what he was doing. And Far Side Bruce chimes in. Of course, O'Shea was okay with that call when Strevy threw a jump ball up to a 5'8 receiver being covered by a 6'3 DB. Duh. And Tristan Rivers weighs in finally. I watched the game again a few days ago. Honestly, less concerned than I was about Strevel. His throwing was actually not bad. And some of those sacks, not his fault, but some fatal errors. So fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling tickets by fans for fans with no fees. All right, bringing him back in. Connor Hrabchak, how you been, Connor? It's been a fun show. Lots to get to here in the, August 5th here. It's a nice summer day.
Situation, because I was just as puzzled as everyone else. So he did a great job explaining, why that's happening, the notice that they didn't give, South Sudan didn't give 30 days notice, and the suspension that's ensuing. And sounds like he's going to be a pretty tough loss. I've been to a number of Seabears games this year. Obviously, Emmanuel Acott is the local product that the fans seem to rally around. But yeah, it looks like he's a very irreplaceable player, and good insight from Joey there.
Yes, Joey's got the Seabears on the pulse. Connor, it is time looking ahead to the Cool Bet lines. Have you looked at any of these CFL lines for this week? I haven't.
I looked at the Bombers line.
You and I.
That's it, though.
That's it. Well, here are the lines, courtesy of our friends at Cool Bet. The Stampeders -5.5 point favorites over the Bombers. Now, we'll wait and see about the confirmed quarterbacks starting, waiting to hear on Vernon Adams. I haven't seen updates today. We've been doing the show, but it seems like Zach Clare's on track to start. Stanley Bryan as well. And Dylan Mitchell in the slot. So, DT, where he was here, had to rush off to talk to the players. Interested to hear what they will say. But some of the other games, Hamilton hosting BC, their favorites, -4. I'm curious to see Hamilton against, I want to see them against, Saskatchewan, that kind of game. They're kind of beating up on some of these bad teams, but they do a great job of it. Bo Levi's throwing the lights out. And Montreal hosting Edmonton, -4.5 point favorites. I don't know. I kind of like Cody Fajardo against his old team. And Toronto -2.5 point favorites at home against Ottawa is coming off a win. What stands out to you from some of these lines, Connor?
Yeah, there's a lot. I will say the Edmonton-Montreal game is interesting to me. You mentioned Cody Fajardo there as one of his former teams that he's going up against. Montreal, coming off that kind of disappointing, it was disappointing loss to the Saskatchewan Roughriders, where the Roughriders just absolutely steamrolled them at home. I know they don't have Davis Alexander, and I don't think he's nearing a return. So how good will they look against an Edmonton team that they absolutely should beat? They're favored to do so by 4. And I share your thoughts on Hamilton. Looking at the CFL futures as well on Cool Bet with the Grey Cup winners, there's a pretty clear big 4 where Saskatchewan's +275, Montreal's +350, Calgary's +375, and then Hamilton is in that group at +380. And then there's a big gap between Hamilton and then the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and then another big gap between the Bombers and the rest of the group. But that big 4 is really interesting to me. I don't know if I'd throw Hamilton in that mix yet, just because, I agree with you. I need to see them beat, Calgary's done it. Calgary beat the Bombers twice and then beat Saskatchewan as well in their little run. I need to see a run like that from Hamilton to put them in the conversation of Montreal and Calgary, because I think the top 3, I think there should be a little bit of a gap between those 3 and Hamilton, maybe for another couple weeks or so.
Montreal, we'll see how this Davis Alexander injury goes, because McLeod Bethel Thompson, I don't think he's it long term. So if they can get Alexander back towards the end of the season, we'll see how long this injury is. Obviously huge for them. Saskatchewan looks far and away the top team. We'll see if they can carry that forward into the second half. The Bombers at +800. That's the lowest number that they've been for a while. BC, maybe Nathan Rourke picks it up. I don't know if they have the defense. And Toronto, if they get Chad Kelly back, the East, I don't think it's all that great. +1550 could be interesting value. Looking at the baseball, the Blue Jays in action. They're taking on the Rockies, who are pathetic. -238 favorites. I mean, the Rockies, they're one of these teams that aren't even trying to put together a competitive roster. I didn't mention them last week, the day of the deadline, but the Blue Jays just pumped Colorado, and looking to build on what's been such a great season so far here for the Jays.
Yeah, happy to report that they had a +14 run differential last night. So if you're wondering, the Jays, they're first in the division, but their run differential isn't as good as the Red Sox. They got plus 14 run differential last night, winning 15-1 against the Rockies, and they've got 2 more games against the Rockies tonight. Based on the probable pitchers page on MLB.com, it's Jose Barrios on the mound for the Jays. So that's why you see them as such a big favorite, not only because the Rockies, like you said, are not a real baseball team, but also because Barrios is one of the Jays' best pitchers. So yeah, look for the Jays. They've got 2 more games against the Rockies. Hopefully they can take both and make up some of these series that they had been losing recently out of the break.
Yeah, just looking at MLB futures, the Jays to win the World Series plus 1,000. They're moving up there. Plus 1,000. And how about to win the East? It was taken. Oh, they don't have any divisional. They don't have any divisional odds.
Look at the American League winner, plus 400. The Yankees and the Jays.
Yeah,
the Yankees, I don't know, man. They have plummeted so far in the past couple of weeks here. They can't even play defense. Like, they're playing like AAA level defense in their infield. I don't know if they should be level with and then there's the massive question mark with Aaron Judge and his elbow now. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with those two teams being even right now.
Yeah, the odds have been slow to react to the Blue Jays surge, so it's something that's fun to monitor. There is a question from Eagle Eyes saying, is now a good time to bet on the Bombers to win the Grey Cup? I think if you think that they can win, I don't know if the odds are going to get much. Well, if they lose to Calgary, they'll probably drop a little, but I don't think they've been lower than, or I always forget.
But if they lose to Calgary a third straight time, you shouldn't feel great about them winning the Grey Cup anyways, you know? I don't know.
I agree with that too, but all matters, can you get hot at the end of the season?
That's true.
And hey, with Zach Claris back, maybe the offense can look much better, and they find a way to lock down these big plays. And Calgary's had injury issues as well. Vernon Adams, and injuries to receiver Alford, who caught all of the touchdowns. He didn't play last week, so we gotta wait and see what their injury situation is there in Calgary. We're looking at, they got CBL odds on here too. They do have Sea Bears. They're plus 135 underdogs at home tomorrow, and we're waiting for NHL futures. My God, they have game 1 regular.
They have, they're no game 1 of the season puck lines. No, they have puck lines though. You can bet like minus 1.5.
Oh, okay. They have
and plus 1.5. Yeah, they have puck lines on opening night.
Well, they do have some futures here. Connor Hrabchak plus 300 to win the Vezina. He's the favorite
to go 3 straight.
How about Rocket Richard? How about Kyle Connor? Even listed? Plus 5,000 to win the Rocket Richard.
Whoa.
He was up there last year. I don't know. I guess things really have to go well, but wasn't he? He scored 38 goals last year. He would need to have a
surpassed 40.
Year. Or sorry, past 4. Sorry, we were on the 50 watch. Yeah, you're right.
41.
Right. 41.
41.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. Or how about Calder Trophy? Very interesting. I'm not sure. Matthew Schaefer, plus 1,500. Ivan Demidov is the big favorite, plus 275, a bit of a crapshoot. After that, and the Stanley Cup winner, the Jets, plus 2,000, same as the Kings. Better than the Leafs. So some nice odds here. And how about Connor?
Sorry, the Central Division odds, if you go down a little bit, Remis, Central Division winner, there's a pretty big gap. Like, the Stars are plus 200, the favorite. Colorado's right behind them, plus 210. And then there's a pretty big gap between the Jets, who are closer to the Minnesota Wild than they are the Avs in odds as the reigning Central Division champions. And I think with the loss of Nikolai Ehlers, you shouldn't feel as confident that they'll win the Central, but I don't think that there should be that big of a gap between them and Colorado or Dallas. Do you?
The Jets getting their regular disrespect here by the odds makers.
Yeah.
No surprise. And Hart Trophy Hellbuck to repeat, plus 2,000. It's gonna be tough. I mean, McDavid, McKinnon, Kucherov, the favorites there. So we do have some. We're getting close to hockey season. We do have some odds, and there's Josh Morrissey plus 4,000 to win the Norris. Makar, the big favorite, plus 145, and Quinn Hughes, and then a big gap. Zach Werenski, plus 900. He could do it. And then even massive gap after that.
Mhm.
Well, Connor. Oh, and we do have some live racing tonight at the Downs. I'll give you my picks. I've got them ready. Hustler, he'll be back with his tomorrow. I'm on race 3. What do I have? 3, 6, or 3, 5, 6, 7. Race 3, 2, 5. Exacta. Welcome to Hollywood and Linda's map. That's the chalk pick there. Race 5, I like 1, 6, 7. Calming Force, Zen Zone, and Flying Tex. That's a combination of the program selection, AI Smart Picks. Race 6, Horse 3 to win, Savage Love. I've had Savage Love before as a winner. We'll see if you can upset in this one. And race 7, 1, 6, 8. I got the two of the favorites, Shemayim and Charming Charlie, but going with the longer shot, Really Slow, who I have won with in the past, but that's way off the board there. So big night tonight. Connor, been great chopping it up with you. What's going on with you here the rest of the week, as it is first week of August?
Yeah, I mean, watching the Blue Jays dismantle the Rockies night after night, hopefully. Counting down to this Bomber game, I'm a lot more excited for it. With, Caleros being in, Bryant, Dylan Mitchell running with the ones, playing a lot of college football 26. Madden 26 comes out this week if you got the deluxe version. So playing a lot of video games, Remis. That's what I'm doing in the summer.
It's that time, and we never even discussed, we never got to it, the new cover of NHL 26. And I wrote in the Discord saying, I think the day before they announced it, saying, hey, the cover's coming out. My pick would be Matthew Tkachuk for the cover, American on the Stanley Cup champion. I think you need an American. We saw him at the Four Nations, and you're going to see him at the Olympics. And who did they reveal on the cover of NHL 26? Matthew Tkachuk. There he is lifting the cup. Beautiful cover, isn't it, Connor?
No, Remis, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Again, we talked about this before the show. You're not the type to get worked up about a cover. I am, though. I am the type.
I think it's a nice picture. It says him in NHL 20. It's him lifting the cup. You don't like it?
I don't like this new trend of just throwing the game's logo over a stock image and calling it a cover. Like, where's the graphic designers at EA I could make this in Canva in 30 seconds. I might actually do that tonight. Time myself making this NHL 26 cover. You just find a transparent background for NHL 26, the EA Sports, the stock image, and throw it all together, and you're done. The cover done. Like, EA could have paid me to do this. If a graphic designer made this, it's even more embarrassing. But covers in video games can be so much fun. Like there's so much creativity that can be had there. I'm not a fan of just stock image, game logo, call it a day. That's my rant.
Well, there's Matthew Tkachuk. He's the first Panther to be on the cover since John Van Beesbrook in NHL 97. Here's the NHL 97 cover. I mean, it wasn't anything that great back then, Connor. I played it a ton on computer. On my dial-up modem, playing people online. Wow. This is the 97 cover, so it's just, it was never really been anything fancy, but that was the John Van Beesbrook cover. Now it's Matthew Tkachuk on, hey, he's also American Panther, also on the cover. Well, I'm sure we'll have lots to get to. Hustler will be back, NFL training camps, they're going on. You've got fantasy stuff scheduled. I should mention we are partnering with Fantasy Points for some fantasy content. So stay tuned for that. Nice. So Connor, I think we've said it all at this point.
I think so.
We'll talk about the Jets tickets going on sale. We're making the WST ticket pack. Hopefully we'll be doing that again. So a lot of fun stuff. So thank you so much. I'll let everyone know where they can follow all your great work, Connor.
Yeah, absolutely. At Connor Hrabchak 1 on X. I will say, Remis, it's not all bad. I'm the type that just buys the NHL game every single year, regardless of how bad the cover is and how bad the game is at times. I've always been a big fan of those games. I've played it since probably NHL 10, when it was Patrick Kane on the cover. Actually, even before that, I remember playing NHL 09 quite a bit. And all of those games growing up. So I'm always going to buy the game. Even if I hate the cover, I'm always going to buy it. I'm a suck for them. And yeah, I'm excited for this week of content here at WST. I'm looking forward to some good shows and a lot of Bomber content going into this big game Saturday that has massive implications in the West against Calgary. And hopefully the Bombers can, avoid this season series sweep against the Stamps.
Yes, looking forward to that game, and Connor dating himself saying, I remember playing NHL 09. I mean, I remember getting NHL 94, and 95 is my favorite because the first one you could create a player. So let
me figure this out, actually. I think the first NHL I played was 08 with Eric Stahl on the cover. Then I played 09 with Phaneuf.
Oh, man.
And then since then I've played.
Making us all feel so old. Connor, the first one, 08.
I was 6 years old playing NHL 08 with Eric Stahl on the cover.
I remember, I think mine was like NHL 94, and then my dad got me NHL hockey, which was technically 92. That was the first ever one. I had that one, but then I got I think I got 94 and then 95. So I've been playing for a while. I actually haven't been buying them on release. I wait till Black Friday. I wait till Black Friday when they go on sale because I don't really play as much as I used to. I used to log a lot of hours when I was younger. I'm
still in that phase. I'm still in that log a lot of hours phase. So I'm still buying them every year. One day that'll end, but not yet.
Well, shout out in the chat, Eagle Eyes giving a shout out to Blades of Steel, and Johnny Bender says, that's it. Not a fan of Connor anymore. Making me feel way too old. That's a good way to end it. The Bombers are live right now. They've got their show going on. I'll send you over to that. So thanks everyone. Thanks everyone who's come out, listen to me today. Hustler will be back tomorrow. Oh, and CFL 110, Hustler and Jeff tomorrow as well. All right. Thanks everyone. See ya.
Oh my God. Oh! Shut it down.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.